Calling this meeting to order, the special agenda meeting, a special council meeting Friday, March 4th, 2022. Clerk, please
Yes,
call
sir.
the roll.
Yes, sir. Councilman Segura is present. Council members Carroll, McKinney, Wilmot, Brennan, Hayes, and Brannigan are absent. Therefore, you do not have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk. To the public, administration, as you've heard, we do not have a quorum. I, as the only council member to show up, am here to have a meeting that was called, but subsequently we will not have that meeting because of the other council members not showing up. With that, sorry for everyone that had come out for this, just a second, everyone who has come out for this special called meeting, and apologize on behalf of the council, I guess, myself, for having your time out here and not being put to good use. So with that, though, this meeting is concluded. Administration, sorry. Now,
Councilman, I understand that. It takes a quorum to call a council meeting, but we do have members of the public that have shown up.
well, this meeting is not called.
That's fine.
We don't have a quorum, but I'll sit here and listen to whatever they have to say.
Yeah, I would still say that this is a public building. You know, we're renting this building, but it's still a public building for City Hall. So as the mayor of the city, I would like for the public to at least speak, because they have, like you said, they took time out of their day to show up, and it was not reciprocal, I guess.
Okay. Well, as I said, since we're not in an official
No, I
meeting,
understand.
no problem, but to any of the public that wishes to speak, I'll stay here and listen to what you have to say.
Absolutely.
Thank
So
you.
will the administration.
Clerk? No problem with that, I presume?
To determine if we can do that. Not
It's up to the mayor if he wants to speak to the public and let the public speak, but as Councilman Segura stated, there is no quorum, so the agenda, the rest of the council's not here. We don't have a quorum, so we're not going to follow the agenda for this special session. But if the mayor wants to take questions from the public or let the public speak, something that's separate and apart from what's on the agenda, or not addressing or not asking the council because there's nobody here to address it, then the mayor can do that.
I would like for the public to speak. Transparency is always important, and this administration is here, ready to have a council meeting. That has not happened, obviously, but we still want to have the public speak anytime they need to. Mr. Teft, there's no council agenda, so just y'all approach it as y'all please.
Greg Taft on West Loyola Drive. Yes. First, I just want to say this. I know it's not a meeting right now, but I have to say this in earnest. If our council decides in their infinite wisdom that they can determine when and where they want to meet, and pay total disregard to the general public for information that the general public is due to receive, then all I can say is shame on them. And Kenner, and Kenner residents should know that what this is nothing more than them, the missing council members, to make their point that they can do what they want and when they want, which is totally wrong. They still work for the people. My councilman is not here, and that's a shame. But I'm a constituent that sits here. And I guess, Ms. Salas, we can't ask questions regarding the situation with Mr. Pitfield.
Nobody's here to answer it, but more importantly, that was for the council to hear in executive session, not for the public. It's not something we can talk about at this time. But again, if you have specific questions for this administration or for the mayor, you can ask that. But again, the council is not here. There's only one council member, so I'm not at liberty to talk about it.
I understand. So would I be out of line if I was to ask the administration if they could at least let the public know that what the news media presented in their investigation, were they correct or wrong, and if they were wrong, how they were wrong? Can we do that as the public?
No, you cannot. You cannot ask them that question.
Mr. Tapp, let me answer the questions I can answer. So we requested through our city attorney, my city attorney, and the council city attorney, an executive session on a particular employee. The council, and I can read the emails, but it'll take a little while. The council accepted that. The council clerk put it on the agenda as requested for this morning. Fast forward, less than 24 hours before this meeting, I received I would just say an email from Council President Brennan that said that they would not have a quorum, and it was short notice. Well, in my world, a week ahead of time is not short notice. That's a whole different story. Had the council, we want to do things the proper way. And in that email, I was basically told that they wanted to be transparent and not have it behind closed doors. Had the council met here today and wanted to discuss a personnel matter publicly, so be it. We'd have done that. But we thought to keep the city from any type of legal action, the best thing was to do it in executive session. If the council was here to say we'd rather do it publicly, we would have yielded to the council with telling the council, like I responded to Councilman Brennan, it may put us in some type of legal action. But if that's what the council would have wished, I wish we'd have had a little discussion with the council instead of just between him and I email less than 24 hours before the time. So we could have discussed it publicly. I think my city attorney or our city attorney would agree that puts us a little bit in some potential legal actions against the city. But if we want to talk about all payroll issues in public, we will do that. We can talk about other payroll issues in public, if that's what this is coming down to. I would always suggest and caution the council that that does lead to possible potential legal action. But if that's what the council wants, this administration's here to work with this council. It doesn't seem, again, that that's reciprocal. Not for you and not for this administration.
All right, thank you, sir. And I thank the administration for being here, and the people the residents that did show up. I thank them for at least coming, because I know it was out there because I spread it all over. So I know people were aware of it, and it just shows, again, the contempt that the council has now for the citizens as well as for the city of Kenner. Thank you, sir.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 50 years. Madam Attorney, I don't have any questions because unless I can look them in the eye and ask the questions, I have no questions. But I have comments. This is exactly why at the last regular meeting, I gave this council a vote of no confidence of my own. This is just typical of how the people of Kenner is being represented by this legislative body. And the sad part is that 3 of them went back in office unopposed and they think they did something. But I'm going to talk about that when I see them and this election cycle is over. They are pathetic and incompetent. They don't even know what time of day it is. And once again, the city of Kenner gets another black eye. Thumb their nose at the people who pay their salaries, who they work for. They're despicable and they're pathetic individuals. That's all I got to say. Anybody got any question for me? Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, Councilman. Yeah, I guess you're acting council president today. How about that? Congratulations. I understand, just making a joke out of a bad situation. I have printed out a public notice that was posted February 25th, that was actually 2 weeks ago, concerning this special meeting, and it was signed by the council president. My question to anyone who can answer, how can they post an official notice and then not show up? Using Al's famous words, anybody got an answer to that one?
I mean, you would, I guess I can try to answer that. You would usually show up and see if you have at least a quorum. I have documentation here that at some point during this 6 days, there was confirmation that there would be at least 4, if not 5, council people here for today. So what happened, and I mean, if you want me to go through it, I will, but what happened from when we sent it out last Friday, I think it was last Friday, to, February 25th, to last night when I received an email from council president that they wouldn't be a quorum and that they thought it shouldn't be held behind closed doors. I don't know. But you would think that you'd still have, again, if we were able to at least hear what the council wanted publicly, to discuss it publicly, this administration would have had no problem. Would have had an issue with it only because of the legal action, potential legal action that could be taken on the city. But we would have gone along with the majority of the council, what they would have wanted.
Yes, sir.
Maybe if the council would have heard that. Look, if there was conversation back and forth with the council, besides just a quick email that I have to respond to in writing, if they would answer my phone calls, we could move forward with these things and settle these things before we get to a public forum, so that you don't waste your time and that the city's not embarrassed. This is becoming an embarrassment to the city.
It is.
If we continue to let Jefferson Parish politics dictate what's happening here in the city of Kenner, this is what it's going to be like. This is why you have an executive branch and a legislative branch in Kenner. This is why we're not incorporated. We are incorporated to have our own government and run our city the way we see fit with our budget. But we're getting to the point where it looks like we just need a Jefferson Parish councilman to do this.
I agree. But I don't understand, at the last meeting, had a lot of questions, and I was not allowed to ask my questions, except the one to you. Did you review all of the timesheets for every employee, every time period? Of course you don't. There's too many. That's why you have directors and they have managers. I did want to ask, how many of those councilmen that brought up the resolution are connected with or associated to Greg Busan? And they're not here to answer the question. I will cut my remarks short, but 2 Saturdays ago, I was visited by a councilman, and your opponent was on the other side of the street, and he was telling me, "Oh, we can't work with that mayor right now. You see that man? We can work with that man." I said, "Really?" And I said, "Is that what you're saying?" And I thought to myself, are they saying that they can't control you, but they can control him? Good questions that I can't get answers to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councilman. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Richard Brown. I live in District 4. I'm going to take up for the council here. First off, it's my understanding this meeting was actually requested by the administration, not by the council itself. It was the council chairman, apparently, who actually called the meeting because he signed the notice, but the law also authorizes the mayor to call the meeting or any 4 council members. But it's my understanding this was at the request of the administration. By the way, to correct Mr. Short, it was exactly a week ago, not 2 weeks ago, that the meeting was called, the notice was issued. From having talked to several council members, I know the feeling among the council members and among everyone I talked to, a lot of people, friends, neighbors. Mr. Short, can you please hold it down?
I'll try, Richard. It's pretty hard, though.
I know. Also, you wouldn't stop when your 3 minutes was up at the last meeting. The chairman almost had to call the police to have you thrown out. And at any rate, I think that everyone who I've talked to, and I think all the council members, feel like this is something that should be discussed in open session, not in executive session. And it's also my understanding that the council has requested, or the president or one or more council members have simply requested that this particular agenda item be added to the regular council meeting for next Thursday, just as it is, as a discussion item to be held in executive session or open session. The council can vote whether or not to do it in executive session. I see, to me, the wrongdoings that have been happening in Kenner is the administration. It's not the council. Certain people here are blaming the council. It's things the administration has done that I'm upset about, and I think that's what the council is upset about, and that's what the council is trying to investigate. At any rate, the council, I think, has made a reasonable request that this simply be put on the agenda for next Thursday's council meeting. I think that's where it should belong, and there was really no need to have this special meeting, and especially to have it in executive session. And I hope it does get added to the next agenda.
So, Mr. Brown, do you mind if I respond to some of that?
If I'll have a chance to respond back.
It's not a council meeting, so there's no 3-minute rule as far as I'm concerned. So on February 25th, we sent the administration, well, Ms. Seiler sent to Natalie Hall, the administration request an executive session be scheduled for this morning. Shortly after that, it was put on the agenda by the council because council president signed off on it, which is what you said. But in between that action, through email, which is documented, we have some correspondence between the city attorney and also to myself and Ms. Deborah Foshee. And the important parts are that Councilman Brennan said, how do we make this happen? As quoted by Councilman Brennan when it was asked, how do we do this council meeting, special council meeting? So there was an interest at some point, and it's in black and white, from Brian Brennan saying, how do we make this happen? That doesn't sound like they weren't interested in doing something about it. It was quickly told back to him, and he also said that Councilman McKinney, look, I'll read the whole thing. He then said he'll be out of town. Okay, well, I can just say this, that Councilman McKinney would have to run the council meeting. But it was said that Councilman Brennan and Councilman McKinney and Councilman Segure and Councilman Wilmot and Councilman Brannigan all confirmed. So I won't read the details of it, but I'll just read the gist of it. When they confirmed that it would happen, they were already confirming to, remember, an executive session request. So they weren't confirming to a open council meeting. Again, this administration cautions the council to not do it publicly, but we've never said we wouldn't do it. If the council was here to change what they had confirmed in conversations that they would do an executive session, if they changed their mind, they've obviously changed their mind between those emails back and forth, those conversations back and forth, to today. It wasn't until last night, and this is public, Councilman Brennan's email. Right. Right. At the request of the City Attorney Joyce Seiler, I called a special council meeting of the Kenner City Council 11 a.m. on Friday, March 4th. He called a special council meeting. Because of the late timing of the request, a week late, 6 days later, it seems that a majority of the council will be unable to attend due to prior commitments. But right before that, they had no prior commitments. Therefore, I suggest that we defer this matter that you would like to put before the council till March 10th, like you're talking about. Furthermore, I shared with the council members your interest in discussing an audit of disaster pay in executive session. It's a personnel matter. I was informed by most of my colleagues, and I concur, that any and all discussions dealing with disaster pay after audit should be conducted in plain view of all citizens. The original email calling for the meeting was an executive session. We will not agree nor condone.
And that was at the request of the administration, though, correct?
But they accepted it.
Well,
Look, you're
it was
probably
your
right.
agenda item. You wanted it in executive session. The council apparently
Mr.
does
Mayor,
not.
if I may, Mr.
Yes,
Brown.
hold on. I
Mis-
wanted an executive session, and they agreed and put it on as executive
Wait,
session.
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor,
Mayor, that's
Mr.
the
Mayor,
t-
may I? Mr. Brown, give me a second. Mr. Mayor, they agreed to an executive session. I mean, they didn't agree to an executive session. They agreed to have a meeting. In that meeting, they were going to vote 2/3 to get
Right.
into an executive session
Right.
at this public meeting that they did not attend.
Right.
They were going to, if they did attend and we had a quorum, they had a right to say, we don't want to go into an executive session. We're going to vote, not for an executive session. We're going to vote to have it in public. But they
Which-
did not appear for the actual meeting to do a vote.
Correct.
Whether to get into an executive session or not.
Correct.
That's, I just
And-
want to clarify,
and I
that's
did-
what you meant.
And I did
Okay.
clarify that in the beginning by saying, had they gotten here and decided to do it publicly, we would have suggested, I think the city attorney would have suggested not to do it publicly. However, this administration would have agreed to it. So as it went on, I did respond to him yesterday and said that we would be here for a quorum if they decided between my response and this email to have this and have this discussion. Obviously, we would have had it publicly. I did not put that in my email, but I would have done it because I've stated it now publicly that I would have done it. It goes back to what I said. We are the city of Kenner. We cannot be run by Justin Parrish. It goes back to my press conference a few weeks ago where I exposed corruption, and here we are, still dealing with corruption. I think the people of Kenner have spoken here today. We've seen the corruption continues. We've seen that there's control somewhere. I'm not going to sit here and point the finger, but I think we all know it. But if this council wants to discuss every personnel issue on payroll issues, potential fraud, or so on, this administration is definitely willing to do that. So I would suggest that the council not pick and choose what they want to discuss publicly, because I think the constituents of Kenner would not be happy with that we pick and choose certain employees.
Mr. Mayor, you're talking to 3 or 4 constituents who seem to always support you. I've talked to a bunch of people, neighbors, who really don't normally follow things that closely. I don't think you can say this is what the citizens of Kenner want. It may be what some of them want.
Well,
And
when
I-
you know
and I
what,
don't disagree
you may
with
be
what
right,
some
because
want.
when you come up and speak for 2 or 3 people that belong to the citizens of Better Kenner, we want people to know that only 2 or 3 people belong to the citizens for Better
No,
Kenner.
it's a lot
So-
more than that, and I've been
Well, why
talking
don't-
I've been
we've-
talking to neighbors
we've
and to other
asked-
people.
we've asked for
Mr.
that-
Mayor, there's no point
I
us
thought-
going forward with this. The council,
asked for your roster
you
of the citizens
requested
for
this
Better
be an
Kenner. Why don't you
executive
produce it to
session.
us?
The council obviously doesn't want it to be. I've known from the get-go that there were 1 or 2 council members who said.
Mr.
they
Brown, I said
probably
we would
couldn't be
do it
here.
if that's what the council wished. You're
Well,
arguing with me.
you're
You,
saying that.
again, you won't take yes for an answer.
Well,
We are saying we would
If
do
you
it, we
will,
would caution
I'm glad-
against it.
I'm glad to hear that, if you will.
Right,
I-
but since there are more than 3 members of the Citizens for a Better Kenner, can you produce that to my office?
No, I'm not going to. We don't do that. We
That
don't
answers
make
my
it public,
question. There's
Mr.
3
Mayor.
members, maybe 4.
Mr. Mayor, boy, you worked hard to get our support when you were first running for mayor. I mean,
I
you
worked
worked
hard to get everyone's
You
support.
whined us and dined us, but you got
Whined
mad
you,
at us
dined
when
you.
we called you out on the fire station, overspending, paying over $1 million too much for that piece of property. The fire station's still not built.
Richard,
It's when
you
we
bring
called
up,
you. It's when
you
we called
continue
you
to
out
bring
over the
up
fire
old
station.
news. You
that
continue to
then
bring up
turned
old
on us.
news, old news that you make into fake news.
Mr. Mayor, it's more of the same from this administration.
That's your goal, to continue to say that. Yeah, there's no
I had a little time left.
there's no
anyway,
set
man.
agenda, Mr. Varela.
Okay.
We told that to Mr. Brown that he had more than 3 minutes, or
Okay.
Mr. Short, can't remember who it was.
I just wanna say this. I wanted to add this. We had a situation like this back in 1991, and I call this musical chairs, okay? 3 council members didn't show up on an issue. The mayor didn't show up for the issue. So the council president had to step off the dais and become acting mayor. So the resolution they was trying to pass couldn't get passed because they only had 3 people left up on the dais. So let me tell you what resulted from that. Okay, I was in on that hot and heavy. I was in on the issue. I'm the one who got the issue taken care of. What resulted in that was the 3 council members got caught in one lie behind another. With the help of one of the council at large up there, they was caught in several lies. Well, it resulted in 2 of them resigning, and the third one political career was over, ended, because of that night. As far as the mayor was talking about with Jefferson Parish, the people of Kenner need to know the history of this city becoming a charter city. Kenner had to apply for a charter 4 times before we finally became a charter city. The first time, Jefferson Parish provided the services for this city. And when the charter was passed for us to become an incorporated city, Jefferson Parish cut the services off. And the people had to leave the city of Kenner and move in unincorporated Jefferson Parish. 4 times. And the mayor's right. That's what this whole thing's about. Jefferson Parish wants control of this city. It's the largest municipality out of 6, and they want it. And they're not going to stop until they get it. But they got one problem. And that one problem is standing right here at this podium. Because they will be called out, they will have their butt kicked, and called out till I'm dead and gone before I allow that to happen. Now the fat's in the fire, it's out in the open. I've been knowing this for several years, and I've been communicating with the people of Kenner. I knock on doors too. I'm constantly engaged in the mainstream population back here. Not just when an election cycle rolls around. Every day I talk to the people in this city and Jefferson Parish. Thank y'all for the extra time. I appreciate it.
I only want to come up here because I have a rebuttal against one of the speakers saying that the constituents here are here because they represent the current administration. First of all, that individual that said that group, has been working very hard to tear this administration down. So I guess maybe he could be right. He just didn't say the other half of it. The other thing is, I talk to a lot of people as well. And Citizens for a Better Kenner does not represent the majority of the people. We found that out when they voted for the millage, because they spoke out about a couple of the pieces of the millage, and it overwhelmingly was approved. So, to me, that told the story there. The group is just as much against this administration as there is a group for the administration. Let's make that clear. But I also want to make clear something else. And I think the citizens realize this. During the pandemic, if we'd have had the wrong people in place to run this city would have went down in flames, and it didn't. Then you turn around right behind the pandemic with Ida, that tore this city apart. I mean, tore it apart. Now, yes, there may have been some bad decisions. And yes, there may have been some things that shouldn't have been done. But most of the citizens realized a couple things. One, this city turned around faster than all the surrounding cities around us, or parishes around us, which is St. Charles, Jefferson, and New Orleans. We turned around faster. We cleared debris, tons of debris, faster than everybody else. Most citizens, believe it or not, realize that. Because I know on my street, we filled up that medium. We had it full. And in other areas, they complained about having a fill up. And when it finally got pulled, man, they were also happy and they were glad, and they commented how great it was. Then all of a sudden, it's not great anymore. That dog ain't going to hunt. The average citizen is smart enough to realize what's going on in Kenner. And I want that to be clear. And it's not that people are talking for the administration, because as this administration knows, I have said before, when I don't agree with you, I let you all know. And I let you all know the same fury as I let you know when you do something right. But on the other hand, you got to weigh the balance. Is there more good than bad? Absolutely. Yes, mistakes were made, but you know what? You know, when you run a business, and I mean a legitimate business where you take care of your customers, you take care of those that are looking to you to be taken care of, and you do it right, they see what is happening. And when they weigh that scale, they're looking at, you know what? A decision under fire is different than a decision on everyday business. And that is a fact. And when you make decisions under fire, you're going to make mistakes. And hopefully, we've learned from those mistakes, and hopefully, we know how to handle those things in the future. So I just want to be clear to everybody. Not everybody follows the group. Not everybody agrees with the way Busan is doing things. And while everybody's not 100% saying that the administration did everything right, at least we know what the administration has done right and what they did to bring this city back and what they're still doing. That, I think, is what we need to stay focused on. And when we have a council and we have these groups that is deliberately trying to tear this city down, that is bad. We're supposed to be promoting Kenner, not taking Kenner and bringing it down to ashes, because this really isn't down to ashes. And I think that's what's appalling. And I don't need someone to speak for me. And I don't need anybody to tell me that they've talked to a lot of citizens, because I've talked to a lot of citizens. Every time I go into Walmart, I seem to talk to a lot of people. I mean, it's amazing how many people that catch me. I don't even half the time know who they are. But, you know, the thing is, people are smarter than we give them credit for, and they know. They know, trust me. But I just want it to be clear, yes, maybe you had 3 people that are saying, yeah, they stand behind the administration. Well, remember, there's a balance on why they stand behind the administration. And then there's this group that's doing their level best to destroy this city. And I think Al Morella said it best. And I know I'm not supposed to say names, but since we're not in a real meeting, it don't make no difference. Al Morella said it the best. Jefferson Parish wants to control Kenner. It's obvious. And when that happens, our identity is going to get lost. And when you look at what's coming forward, I think people realize, you know, we have some weak people that's coming. And we have people that's showing us what they can do. You know, I think I don't think we're giving people the benefit. That's really all I have to say. Thank you.
There you go. Just real quickly, and I just wanted to respond to Richard, because you're one of the people I have great respect for. You and I had many years at the parish. I can remember a couple times I'd feel a pencil poking me in the back, and you'd lean over and you'd tell me what the Roberts Rule objection was, and I would just repeat it, blind faith. So I do have great respect for what you're saying. I think one of the issues really is that without communication with the council, they really don't know why we're going into executive session. No one has actually reached out. This is not the audit of the emergency pay. This is a employee investigation, which, hold on, I just lost it. This is one of those discussion of the character, professional competence, or physical or mental ability of a person, provided that person has been given 24 hours notice. So in this particular case, Chad was given 24 hours notice. The notice is to say, no, I want to have it in public. So it may well be that the council chooses not to go into executive session. It would just be really, and maybe it seems to me logical, why not go in, figure out what the topic is, and then say, you're right, I don't want to be in executive session, or, hey, guys, maybe we don't want to discuss this because this person's constitutional right to privacy might be implicated. We have a guy who's still presumed to be innocent. So at this point, absolutely, an opportunity to speak to the council. The last meeting, they reached out and said, you don't communicate with us. This is what we're trying to do. Hey, guys, can we talk to you about this, just so you can see where we are? So I 100% understand the desire to have everything in public, and if we could do it without actually, violating someone's constitutional right to privacy, I would do it. But I think I would love the chance to have somebody from the council ask, not just assume we're doing something wrong, but actually ask what we're doing. Because I think that would probably resolve a lot of this. Anyway, that's my soapbox.
Well said, thank you. Well said. I had just bought our house in February of '05, before Katrina. And during Katrina, it was, most of us will remember, it was a bad sick. First 2 weeks, second week or third week, we were allowed to come back and clean out our refrigerators and so forth. I drove in, and there were National Guard troops on the streets. Marching in the streets with their guns. They were all around the city hall, all around the police department, and then FEMA showed up. We were allowed to come back, I think, 1 or 2 weeks after that. And FEMA was here. Wow. This storm, Ida, hit, and the day after, my neighbors, and by the way, Richard lives right down the street from me, so we have the same neighbors and friends. We were outside talking, and they were calling the Army Corps of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers for blue tarps, and they were told, oh, it's going to be a week or more before we get it. I called the mayor. I said, Mr. Mayor, this is what we were just told. Where you at? I said, in front of my house. Within 15 minutes, he was there. He was in a van. He was out giving out blue tarps, and he gave blue tarps to everyone who needed one. And I grabbed my phone, and I said, Mr. Mayor, this is great. No. His words. No, Martin, this is not a political thing. This is an emergency. If you can't respect that, what are we going to do? When you're giving out the food, my neighbor and I, Eddie, we drove in together to try to save some gas and time, and all of the councilmen, the four that were not here, were there. They had people taking videos of them giving out food, putting food in the cars. They made a good joke, a good profit out of it. That's not what it was about. You worked your tail off, Mr. Mayor. We don't agree on some things, but I do know that you are my mayor, and I will defend you. And thank you very much. But people should remember and consider all the work that you did. Thank you.
Saley Molina, District 5. I don't have anything prepared to say. I didn't even know I was going to be here 20 minutes ago. And I definitely didn't expect not to see anybody from the council except Mr. Mike Zagor here. So, but I do have a few questions, and then I also want to do the same as Mr. Teff did and reply to some of my neighbors. Because a lot of the problems with this administration isn't even really the administration. It's us as people, as neighbors, as the residents of this city. Some of y'all mentioned, oh, we talk to people on the street all the time. So do I. But none of y'all came to talk to me. Mr. Greg Taft is in University City. I'm in University City. We're talking about overtime pay and how long should we pay this? Oh, we were the fastest city to come back. Who's asked me? No one's asked me if I've come back. I'm on studs. My neighbor doesn't have a roof. Okay? So, 5 days is enough for disaster pay after. Look, how many days are we? I don't even know what day is it. You know, how many days is it after? My house is still on studs. Gentlemen, as you speak to people, reach out to everyone in the neighborhood. There's people that are homebound, that are bedridden, that are disabled, that don't get to go out to Walmart, that don't get to maybe get on Facebook. But then Facebook is one of the main avenues used to get information out there. But we'll sit here and belittle a group like Mr. Brown's, which is 3 people. Oh, 3, keep belittling it. Yet I run a group of 17,000, and still nobody gives me any respect to say, hey, you know what? Maybe we should reach out to her and ask her, what are the people saying? Hey, they're complaining about Ivy versus Ramelli. What are the people saying? You know who might know? Saley might know. Ask her. Get the information from her. Use her as a tool. She obviously wants to help if she's reached out. And I don't get that. I don't get that from my administration. I don't get that from my neighbors. And I just want to know, what is it that someone like Saley, Ms. Sala, what would I have to do to be able to have access to the same information that everybody else has access to know when things are going to happen? So then when people ask me, I know who to direct them to the city. Chad Pitfield was one of those people that we're here to talk about today, right? So to stay on topic, Chad Pitfield was one of those people who came up in one of these meetings and say, I publicly denounced that group, Kennerborough, which is the one that I run, and me and my family are no longer going to be part of this because there was a problem with a park, because people complained about the conditions of a park. That wasn't my fault. I don't even go to the park. I don't know. These grandparents wanted to bring their grandchildren to the park. These kids were asking, hey, when can I play football? Well, we can't, sweetheart. The parks are closed. Then we're driving past Mus Bertolino. Mount Carmel has painted on the wall Mount Carmel, and they're playing baseball. So my grandson's like, hey, how come those girls get to play and the boys don't get to play? So now he's feeling discriminated against because he thinks it's a girl versus boys thing, when it isn't. It isn't. It isn't. And so what is it? So I'm not here with a statement. I'm here with a question, not just for the administration, but for you, Ms. Sala, for you, Mr. Segura. What is it? What is it that takes this administration 5 years to get in touch with me? Or I finally got a call from Glenn Hayes. Finally, I have communication with some if I reach out, but nobody reaches out. So what do we have to do? My question is that. What do I have to do? What do the people have to do? Because they get in touch with me. So how do I reach you?
You and I have had that very conversation because you and I ended up at the same ribbon cutting and ended up having a fabulous conversation. And since that time, in 2 very short days, you've managed to reach out to me on 2 topics and provide information back to your group. So you're absolutely right. I should have reached out to you sooner. I'm glad we're touching base now. I want you and everyone else in the city to have access to the information. As I told you, I personally am not even on Facebook. So when I hear something, it's usually somebody taking a screen grab from your site or somebody else's and sending it to me. There are many people here, and we can do a better job of making sure you know who can resolve issues, but absolutely commit to, making sure the right people do it. It's not sometimes I think we call one person and think that one person can fix the problem, and sometimes they can't. In each case you and I talked about, I had to reach out to a third party, one outside vendor, one outside philanthropist. And again, happy to do that. And I know you don't want to be the person who has to feed our information back to the public, because that's very time consuming for you.
Like we said, 3 people, but I'm 17,000. This is 17,000 people. They want to know, hey, when's the next CRC food drive is what they're calling about. Hey, my drainage. We're in University City, Mr. Taft, and we have such issues about drainage, yet we're talking about things that really don't even concern us. We should be worried about what's going on with the drainage on the west side of University City and those things, and that's what we want information on. It isn't that easy to get in touch with some of the council sometimes. It's not just the administration.
Let me see if Joanne, there she is. Okay, so one of the things that we can help with, I think, is on the sewer side, because often that's an issue. Ms. Joanne sends out, I think it's not weekly, it's monthly reports. Sends out monthly reports, and they're by district. So if what we could do probably is just either post those on our page so that anybody that wants them can pick it up. But that's a routine monitoring report we have on the sewer. Tom, we don't have anything similar on drainage, right? We just have the capital projects? Yeah, so we could actually post capital projects just so you'll have an idea. Right now, the focus is on Lincoln Manor because that's where we got the money from. But one of the things we can do better, obviously, is reach out to the groups and figure out how to get priorities on next year or the year after that in terms of the capital outlay. But I'm eager for the opportunity to figure out a better way to communicate, because we are doing great things here at the City of Kenner, and the messaging is just not there. Sometimes the messaging is not there. So I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and asking the question.
But I think that seeing that the council isn't here today, sometimes silence speaks volumes. And I mean, I don't know what that tells you guys. What does that tell you? That they're not here, that they made a vote of no confidence, and then they just don't show up. And I just don't understand. Why not have this hearing? Why not just do what, you know, but I want to understand, what does this say to you guys as an administration that they're not here and it can't move forward, right? Or can it move forward?
Right, I think we stated what it said to us, but my question would be, what does it say to the people of Kenner? And look, I'm still a citizen, us up here, we're citizens. So as a citizen of Kenner, I think that's a better question for all of us. What does it say? So, look, Saley, we have had discussion over the last 5 years. Maybe we haven't had discussion recently. We can correct that. But I was under the impression, and you and I have had discussion over those 5 years, you know that. You've called me for some things. I was able to deliver some things for you, not city-related, but other things when there was some other deaths that had happened in the city. So we have had a decent relationship in the past, but I know that Deborah had spoken to you just recently, but I thought Adam Campo had reached out to you. You had reached out to Adam Campo, which is part of the administration. So I do get that feedback also. So I just want to be clear that this administration has not shunned Saley Molina. We have had.
I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I wouldn't want to
Well,
get into that either. And like I said, it's
but
not
you-
so much about the administration.
but you
I
recognize-
put more weight
No,
on
I got you.
as neighbors to really communicate with each other, to know what to bring you and what our council people are going to speak to you through us.
Saley, you have my cell number. We've had discussions in
And
the
you
past.
have mine, Ben,
And
and you have
I
mine.
I do, but I'm not sitting here saying I don't talk to you. I'm saying that our discussions have not been, recently, we have not had a lot, but we have had in the past. I have never not answered your phone call. So if you need me for something, you need to reach out.
No,
And look,
you've been
I know,
good. Deborah's been awesome. We've really, it hasn't.
and I think
Deborah's
Adam
been
has
awesome.
too.
Adam's been amazing. He's
So
been
let's,
able to connect us with
you know,
resources.
let's push the
Absolutely.
restart button and restart it
Absolutely.
today. So, but I
Absolutely.
think the biggest question that you, besides us,
The restart
getting-
button needs to be pressed here for me.
Uh,
You're here, but I'm saying for me, it needs to be pressed.
I'm here to restart it.
know.
I mean, look, this city has been like other areas. It's not just the city of Kenner, but of course the city of Kenner is in the middle of a political situation, right? But the city of Kenner for 2 years, like Jefferson Parish, like the state, like the country, like the world, have been through a lot. It's not unique here, hold on,
Yes.
except for the storms. But COVID is not unique just to the city of Kenner. We have preached what we have done before the political I don't want to get into politics here, but before politics, we have preached what we have done during those 2 years. $600 million of infrastructure coming in to Lake Town, another 6 to 8 CRC that has been generous to the community is coming into Rivertown. So we have done some things in the last 2 years, and we're still able to run city government. We're right here. Not everybody agrees of us being here, but there's no place else to go,
But
Saley.
I think that's why we're here, and I think the main topic of this entire meeting should be transparency. Everybody wants transparency. We want to see. We want to see, because this is a meeting about to examine the overtime that one employee had, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when the storm was over, and I didn't have enough energy to evacuate like I usually do, and I got stuck at the house with my 2 grandchildren, and the roof flew off, and then it was dark night with the storm. No generator, nothing. And when the sun comes up and everybody and all the neighbors peek out to see what's going on, I saw KPD. I didn't see any big black Fords. I didn't see Chad Pitfield. We're months later, and no one, not a Chad, not a no one, has reached out to me, not as Saley runs Kennebra, no. Saley Molina, who lives at that little house whose roof blew off. Her, the one that's going through cancer treatment, the one that needed to get to the hospital and didn't know what roads were open to get to treatment. Who's, like one of the gentlemen said, oh, we were the first to bounce back, but at the same time, he's not hearing what he's saying. We went out on the streets, yes, we, the residents, we didn't see big city trucks. We, with the people who had already had chainsaws, our neighbors, we cut those trees down. We, the residents, not we, the city. And so I think that, I've been up here too long.
But I do have to defend my field crews
They came
And
out.
look, let me start this by saying this. I'll defend the KPD and the KFD also. Kenner Police Department, Kenner Fire Department were
out there.
fantastic. However, they weren't alone. General Services were out there, field crews were out there, Public Works was out there. If you didn't see them, look, I can't control that. But
I roll around the city. I roll
Yeah,
around.
but that's-
I
that's-
drove around the city. There was no one out there at first.
Yeah, that's-
Eventually, they got out there.
we're going to agree to disagree.
We'll
And
agree to
not
disagree.
Not eventually. They were out that morning. I was out that
We
morning.
still have neighbor. Okay, so my question is, who do we keep paying overtime to? Okay, Chad's not getting no overtime. Who will be continue to get some kind of disaster pay to handle disaster-related things? I have disaster debris in front of my house. I have disaster debris in front of my house. Is Ivy going to pick that up? I still have disaster issues ongoing, is my question. And so my neighbor doesn't have a roof. We still have construction crews out there. Code enforcement, what is code enforcement doing to make sure we meet the needs of all this construction that's happening? What's happening?
Yeah, so as of right now, no one is getting disaster pay. The only difference is once we start moving towards permanent work, if any of our crews do that type of work, that would be eligible for reimbursement. So then they would get, that payment. I'm like you, my house is not fixed. I'm waiting on my insurance company, so I completely understand. So Ivy Waste will be coming and pick up debris. They're going to continue to do that. Obviously, as people get insurance money, they'll start their repairs and start tearing stuff out. So we're expecting more debris. So I agree, it's a long process. A lot of people think the 5 days is reasonable. Recovery takes a long time.
I'm still in recovery.
No,
don't know
I
for
agree.
you, I am. I'm still in recovery.
So,
You are.
yeah, exactly. So, no, the services will continue to be provided to the citizens, and all eligible costs will be sought for reimbursement.
Now, I do know that there was a program that used to help, like, senior citizens help fix their house and things. Can we get that information out to maybe whatever resources may be available?
Yes, Tamithia Shaw will do that. Can you
Okay.
make sure you text me your address so I can get it on the email IV pickup list? Look, they're all over the place, but I still want to make sure it gets to that email IV pickup list for any kind of, when any constituent calls me, I have to even go through the email process.
I understand.
So I will email it to them for you,
I understand.
okay?
Ms. Molina-
And if there's other addresses too that you said you have around you.
Yes.
Okay.
Ms. Molina, I'll make sure you have my email address as well.
I
I
have
really think you
everybody's
need us,
email.
the legal department, but I can definitely connect you with the right departments, and I can walk you through to
And
code right now.
I have everybody's
as
email.
well.
You're Ms. Joyce
Okay.
Sala.
I'm
Mr.
Joyce Sala.
Benzon,
Yeah.
Ms. Deborah Fosher.
All right.
I'm
So
familiar.
if you need, I can walk you to code if you want us to talk directly to Ms. Volkin, who is the director of code, as you're talking about the code issues.
Yes, ma'am.
So we can have that immediately taken care of
Yes,
as well.
ma'am. Okay, I'm done. All right, thank you.
Hello, Stacy Alessandro, District 4 in Kenner. I actually wasn't even planning on coming to this meeting today, but when I was at home and I was Okay, we'll try this again. Stacy Alessandro, 4th District, Kenner. I wasn't even planning on coming to this meeting today. I was actually at home listening to the live broadcast when I started to hear the group Citizens for a Better Kenner being maligned, in my opinion, and questioned, and insinuations being made. I am a very proud founding member of Citizens for a Better Kenner. I'm an officer in the group. And we have been in existence for over a decade. And I know this administration and the mayor in particular would love to know our membership list. We will never divulge that. There are 3 of us that are officers that are spokespeople for the group. But our membership list is not public, even though you have tried in various lawsuits that you were a party to. The last one, you tried to specifically compel us to give you our membership list. We'll never divulge that. We have members from all walks of life that are supporters of ours, that are members. We have politicians, we have doctors, lawyers, gardeners, you name it, retired citizens. But the point is, one of the main reasons that we do not divulge our list and we only have 3 spokespeople is because of the tactics that you use, Mayor. You record your friends in private conversations, and then you play those recordings on television. You call news conferences over that. You have your friends who come to you, such as myself and Richard Brown, as members of Citizens for Medicare, we came to you for help, and you tried to have us arrested on multiple felonies. You've tried to have other people arrested. Council members you've threatened to have arrested. I'll tell you, if you want me to tell you, let's talk about that in private. I'll tell you who and what. So
I would think you'd want to talk about that transparent.
actually,
Be
I'll
very
talk, you know
transparent
what,
about
I
that.
would, you know
Because I
what,
don't know of any council members.
I will talk to you about that
Okay,
at the next council meeting when the council members here to defend themselves.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, anyway, let's forget about that. That's not even the important point. Okay, so the point is that you talk about having people arrested all the time, and you record people all the time. That's a well-known fact. And there are some people who don't want to have their identities known because they don't want their jobs threatened. They don't want to be threatened to be arrested. There's multiple reasons. But yet we will stand up here. We'll be the face of the group. People can come to us, which they do all the time, and tell us things, and we'll try to do what we can about it. But as far as anybody here and anybody in this audience trying to malign our good government group, we do nothing but advocate for transparency. We were against the fire station purchase for that land of $1 million more than it was worth that is now still sitting there over 3 years later with no fire station. Just a big mound of dirt. The firemen are in a trailer. The land floods. When it rains, they have to trudge out in the sludge to go to calls. We're sitting there with no fire station, yet we were given the money. We're sitting there with a road construction project on West Esplanade, 3 years now. The entire causeway was built in like 14 months. We have this little stretch land, and now it's sinking. In case y'all didn't notice, every time you come over, there's a little bump, which is getting worse and worse. The project is sinking, and it's taking all these years, and nothing is being done. I mean, at least come out and give us an update, an in-depth update. We need an engineer out there. We need an attorney out there to tell us something is up with that project, that street project on West Esplanade by the mall. We need to know what is going on. This is not okay. There's corruption. There's potential payroll fraud. The purpose of the executive session today was specifically to discuss the audit of Chad Pitfield. Attorney Sala had said, well, if the council was here, maybe they would have known who we were going to talk about and what, and then they could have decided. You already told us it's about Chad Pitfield. That's all you can discuss. And his audit records. Why don't y'all tell us now? You said, well, we have no problem being transparent if that's what the council wanted. Why don't you give us the full audit report right now? You're the mayor.
The council has always requested, since with all these personnel issues that we've had, that we've inherited, have requested to know before we share it with the public. That has been absolutely the council's request. So now you're asking me to do something that the council has requested not to do?
I don't know what the council wants.
Well,
Obviously,
you're at
they
every
didn't want
council
to do
meeting.
it. Well, they didn't want to do it in an executive session, or they'd be
Stacy,
here right now.
Stacy, you rarely miss a council meeting. I think you've been in enough council meetings, and I think you're privy to enough probably public information, probably also confidential information, that they have made sure that they want to be made aware of personnel issues before the public. I know you know that. So now you're asking me to do what the council has asked not to do.
Well, if they wanted it
It's a
to
yes or
be-
no answer.
No, it's not a yes or no answer.
I
If
know,
they
yeah,
wanted
it's
to
only-
know
that only
in
happens to
executive
me. I
session-
know.
No, if they wanted to know in executive session, like you're saying, don't you think they'd be here having an executive session with you right now?
I don't know, you talk to them more than I do, so
And
you
that's a
tell
shame
me.
that a citizen,
Well,
and
that's-
the administration doesn't talk
this
to the council,
administr-
but a citizen talks to them
So-
more than you?
So this administration is here for a council meeting, but it's still a shame for the administration. I think that's a little biased. There's so many things that you accused us of that would take too long to respond to, but we'll have responses for you for the next mayor's comments.
Okay. Well, I'm here representing Citizens for a Better Kenner, a good government group, which is comprised of way more than 3 members. And we would wholeheartedly look forward to, at the next council meeting, the audit report of Chad Pitfield and any other relevant information.
That's what they're asking for at the next council meeting.
That's what I'm saying. I'm looking forward to it
Oh, no, we'll-
wholeheartedly in the public eye.
We were prepared to do today in there, or if the council wanted to do it out here, we would have obliged. I've made that comment. This is probably the 5th time.
I
You were
know.
late, but this is probably the 5th
Yeah,
time
I was
that
in
made
bed.
the
I wasn't
comment.
even coming to this meeting until I heard y'all maligning my good government
Okay.
group, and I couldn't stand for that. I wasn't even coming here. I'm just saying, can we, listen, like Sally said, I'd like to kind of have a reset button. We all have a common goal right now, which I hope is to get to the bottom of the investigation for everything that we're being investigated on almost daily, weekly on the news. I would hope that as much information as you guys have, that you would just present it to the public for the payroll fraud investigation, not making a fishing expedition and trying to include other peripheral information, other people, blah, blah, blah. We want to know what's happening with the things that are on the news. You can keep anything else out of it, but address the things that are on
So
the news.
you just want payroll fraud that's on the news? Potential payroll fraud that's on the news? Is that what the
At
Citizens
least
for a
that-
Better Kenner are asking?
No, I'm not saying that's
So you want
all
all
we
payroll,
want.
you want all payroll, potential payroll fraud?
I'm asking you, no, you're not going to twist my words. I'm asking
Oh, I'm asking,
you,
I'm asking.
I'm asking you right now specifically for payroll fraud pertaining to Hurricane Ida
Okay.
and Chad Pitfield.
And you don't want any other potential
I
payroll
never
fraud?
said that.
No,
You're
I'm,
saying
I'm
that.
asking. I'm asking.
You're not asking. You're
No,
trying
I'm-
to twist my words.
It's an
wrong.
ask. Okay, I don't know
it's
how
not,
it's-
because
I
the
wasn't
way
taught
you
any
do
other
it
way
is
to
you
do
try
this.
You try to pinpoint people. You try to get them to say one word that then you can latch on to. It's what you did to Gregory Carroll at the last meeting. You try to get him to say one word, and then you pounce. You're not going to put me in that trap.
So do you
I'm
want to
tell-
answer the question?
I'm not going to answer your question
Okay,
because
you just
that's
did. You
it's
just
a
did.
loaded question.
The Citizens
No,
for a
I
Better
didn't-
Kenner just did.
No, that's a loaded question.
How many fraud cases are we investigating right now?
We will be prepared to discuss at the next council meeting.
Okay. On all of them?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and see, but there's, if you're asking for that, we'll make it. The council, the administration was prepared to discuss one particular potential issue. We are not prepared today to discuss the others, but we can be. But there's other potentials.
One last thing. They keep talking about, people keep talking about the fire station. I agree that it's way behind schedule. Something should have been put in place by now. I agree with that. But who approved the money to buy the property? I came down here and gave the breakdown of what each one of those properties was worth, what they were assessed for. And what the total assessment was $225,000. We paid $1.5 million. Who approved that $1.5 million? Didn't the council approve that money? One thing people need to remember, this legislative body controls the purse in this city. No one up there asks any questions. They just rubber stamp the money. Then if it don't go like they want it to go, or there's a problem, then they want to blame it on, find them a scapegoat. They didn't have to prove that money. They could have did just what I did. They could have went to the assessor and found out what those 5 properties was worth. But no, they didn't do that. They went by what the city attorney told them behind closed doors. Then they rubber stamped $1.5 million for 5 properties that was assessed for $225,000. And then they had 3 proposals on the table. 4. There was a lot less than $1.5 million, but they disregarded that too. What I'm saying is there's enough blame here, and more so with the body that rubber stamps these expenditures when they don't have, because they're not competent enough to ask the questions. They just want to approve the money and hope it goes well so they can take the credit when election rolls around. Now, you want the truth? You got the truth. They're more responsible than anybody. Yeah, the mayor shares responsibility too, but more so the people who approve the money. Thank you, Ben. Thank y'all.
Well, hello again. I didn't know I could come up here twice. Can I take this off? Because my comments, again, are over here. If that's okay. There's a lot of people, since there's a lot of cameras now, playing up to the cameras. And you sit up here, and I'm not going to say people, the person who just sat up here and said, this happened, and that happened, and that happened, and they're responsible. It's all being misled. They approved what this administration requested. And I got to be a part of that because this little bitty itty group, they invited me to a seat to sit with these big people, and I got to sit there. Is this working? I got to sit there, and I got to listen. And thank you, Richard, for that, for allowing me that seat at that meeting for that fire station. And it wasn't worth $225,000. That land was worth about $500,000, and there were 3 appraisals if you got the information. And time was of the essence. And that's why they paid $1.5 million for that land. And now we still have trailers there. I don't know why we're talking about this, but we're talking about it because you bring it up. And you bring it up here, and you're a candidate. But see, I'm not a candidate. And I believe that the people deserve the truth. They want the truth. They don't need an actor up here with the political theater saying it's their fault or their fault. They vote, and they trusted the city attorney. So they're damned if they trust them, damned if they don't. If they go to them, then we get outside counsel. It's all very confusing for the average individual. And it's more confusing when we ourselves are getting up here and spreading misinformation. That doesn't fall on the administration anymore. That falls on us. I'm done.
I want to respond to that. First of all, Sealy, you wouldn't know the truth. You wouldn't know the truth if it hit you in the face. And why don't you tell the people that the organization you represent is in bad standing with the state of Louisiana for 2 years? It's in bad standing. So, you're the one that's up here that's not telling the truth. You're not about the truth. You're about hate. And you're about targeting political people who don't do what you want them to do. It's personal with you. It's got nothing to do with the people of this city. You need to learn how to tell the truth, but you can't because you wouldn't know it if it hit you in the face. And if anybody's political theater, it's you, and you're not even good at that.
Council Chairman, if we could, I know this is no council meeting, but if we could just maybe, if the people have finished, just kind of wrap it up. But I would like to make some closing comments if y'all wouldn't mind. Look, we always welcome unbiased opinions. Greg Teff is correct. Sometimes you've been with this administration, sometimes you've been against it. Sometimes you've been with the council, sometimes you've been against the council. That's what makes it America, right? You have your right to express what you want. So we appreciate that. And I think what's most important, Mr. Teff, is you and I have never had words over all that time. If you were against me or for me, we still shook hands at the end of a council meeting. That shows what this administration's here with today. The majority of this council asked for me and Deborah Foshee to resign. We still sent a request through Joyce Sala to the city attorney to meet with this council, either in executive session or, if they wish, publicly. We still will work with the majority of this council, the whole council. We will continue to do that because what's important to me is what's important to you all. Open, transparent government. That's what we're still producing. We will never stop doing that. If I have a council that's against me, that's fine. That's politics. I'm not worried about that. People before politics is more important, and that's what this administration is pushing right now. It's really, really odd. I'll just end with this. When you go out to the public, and there's ways that we go out to the public, and you ask, where is this administration the strongest? A certain Jefferson Parish councilman said, we did a great job in the days after Ida. We were the most organized city in Jefferson Parish that they knew of, getting basically our act together, kind of like what you said, Mr. Teft. And when you go out into the public, and you know what I'm talking about, but I won't get political here, and you ask the public, what is this administration the strongest on? I'll leave you with this, and it's just kind of odd, I'll say. This administration and this council, the city of Kenner, is strongest on Ida recovery and garbage collection. I'll leave you with this, would have been the two main attacks. And that's documented that Ida recovery and IV waste is our strongest points in the city of Kenner, strong points in the city of Kenner. Not just for me, not just for this administration, not just for them, not just for, it's for all of us. For all of us, those are the two things. And I just leave you with this, would have been the two main attacks on just the administration. When I'm including everybody, everybody's had something to do with Ida recovery and garbage collection. This is the best garbage collection that we've had in a long time. This is the best recovery of a storm. Probably will go down in the history books as a Category 5. We know it's a Category 4. But at the end of the day, which will probably take 6 months or after the election, it'll be a Category 5 storm, I'm sure, in the history books. And that's where we, everybody, is strongest. Thank y'all for coming today.